So, as we all know, Pastel Belle has made a ton of videos on Eugenia Cooney, basically on not really good takes on it, and then people like me and a bunch of commentary channels have called her out on those takes and really say that it's a dumb take to have. Belle Aubrey came out with a response to WillyMac's video on her, where WillyMac goes into like detail calling her out on what dumb points she has in her video and how her video is outright stupid. So today we're gonna check out Belle Aubrey's 30-minute long response, and we're just gonna try and debunk some of her points.
So recently, as I'm sure a lot of you are already aware, there's a creator who made a video regarding my stance on Eugenia's content either getting removed or age restricted in order to protect children and minors from the dangers of pro-Anna and thinspo content. While it is certainly fine for people to have a different opinion than me, although my stance is also YouTube's stance, which we'll get into in a little bit, this creator went out of his way to paint me in the literal worst light that he possibly could. Like, I started watching the video and there was zero objectivity. There was no mention of why I might have the stance that I had, and I remember thinking as I was watching that this was not an objective critique or audit as he was trying to frame it. This was literally a hit piece meant to smear me as much as he possibly could. Like, if I didn't know any better, I would have thought this creator was getting paid to do this because of the amount of vitriol that he had towards me in the video. Now, it's one thing to present an objective and opposing viewpoint, but it's a completely separate thing to try to completely disparage the individual who has the opposing viewpoint while also trying to villainize them at every turn. And that's exactly what this guy tried to do in his video. So, I want to take the time today to address some of the criticisms, and I also want to clear the air regarding my stance on this situation, and I also want to bring up some points that he seemingly just forgot to mention, probably because they didn't fit the narrative he was trying to push. But what I find really weird is he followed me on Twitter a few months ago, and I've had the same stance publicly this entire time.
I think the guy followed you on Twitter maybe because try to keep up with your bullshit that you say on a daily basis.
Not only that I've had the same stance publicly, but that I haven't been talking about Eugenia recently. My last video on her was back in August, and that video I only did because other people were trying to skew the perspective that I have on Eugenia, and I was trying to clear the air. And I've also been public about the fact that I don't want to talk about her anymore because she really does trigger my own ED. But even before that, my last video on Eugenia was back in May. I think it was May 5th specifically. So my last video on Eugenia was in August, and before that it was in May. May. It's now October. So where was this fake moral outrage before?
I can easily answer that question. Well, the reason why people know about it now and not the time you made it, well, first of all, I think he caught light to it. He was trying to do a bit of research on something, and then until he found your video on something, and he felt like that he needed to call it out. That's why That's why he made a video on you now instead of like back. If he knew you were doing this back in October or August or whatever day you said, trust me, he would have made a video sooner.
Why is it just coming now? Where was it for the last year when I publicly held the same exact stance that they are complaining about now? I get that there's kind of a lull in the commentary community right now, and there's not a lot for people to talk about, but trying so hard to grasp at this situation, this manufactured drama, in order to have something to talk about is really sad. I also saw a lot of people trying to paint him as this fair and objective creator, so I went back and looked at some of his past work, and he literally called D'Angelo Wallace, of all people, the biggest douchebag on the internet. D'Angelo Wallace.
Okay, and who cares? Look, this is what she's trying to do right now. She's trying to like make you mad by saying a bunch of things that she knows that her fans are going to be mad of, and trying to like steer up a mod and then trying to get blast hate. I feel like that's what she's trying to do. She's trying to make these little things saying, look, he called D'Angelo Wallace a douchebag like a couple years ago. Then you know he's bad, right? Like, what does this have to do with the conversation about your take on Eugenia Cooney? That makes no sense.
Another point that I found really interesting is his insistence that I am a T channel. Now, if you look at this clip from his video, what do you notice about every content creator on the screen right now? They're all either a woman or they're LGBT. So, let me get this straight. If you talk about current events on YouTube, then you're a T channel. Well, as long as you're LGBT or a woman.
What the fuck? That makes no sense at all. Like, what are you trying to say? Are you trying to say that WillyMac is some homophobic women hater because he calls you T channels? You people claim that you are T channels. There's legit a channel right now that's called T-Spill. You people call yourself T channels. Like, what the fuck?
I also reached out on Twitter to debate this guy on the whole Eugenia Cooney thinspo content situation, And this was the objective and intellectual response that I got.
How could that be a response if you had him blocked before he even tweeted that?
So no, I will not be debating him. But also, if you take a look at his content overall, such as his video getting upset at YouTube for banning Alex Jones or other extremist and awful creators, you can start to paint a picture of his views on, let's just say, progressive issues. Now, before we get into the specific video in question, I do just want to clarify that I have never, ever advocated for a single person to go and send any hate towards Eugenia Cooney or harass her at all. That has just not happened. I know some people are lying right now, and some people are trying to milk this situation for views and make it seem like I'm this horrible person and that's just what I like to do, but I actually haven't. In fact, I've always said the exact opposite. I have told people to not go and comment on her videos. I've told people specifically to not harass her. And if you feel like you must do something, you can block and report the content. You know, so you don't get triggered by it when YouTube puts it on the trending page. So if you think I'm the kind of person that's ever going to bully or harass someone, then please just unfollow me on everything. I have never, ever called for YouTube to ban people simply because they have EDs.
This is where I have to sadly disagree with you, Pastel Belle. You've supported a petition to have Eugenia Cooney banned from the internet. You've supported this petition where to have Eugenia Cooney banned from all social media. So no, I totally disagree that you never advocated. You kind of did advocate for Eugenia Cooney to get banned from YouTube because you've made a video supporting a petition.
Implying that I think all people who suffer with an ED should be banned from YouTube automatically is just not true. Like, that's just a straight up lie, which is very rich coming from someone whose entire argument was based on me supposedly lying. Now, I just want to reiterate, this creator is lying to you by implying in any way, shape, or form, either directly or indirectly, that I support removing people from YouTube simply because they are sick. I have never thought that. By that logic, since I have an ED, I would also need to be deplatformed, and I would also have to advocate for the deplatforming of anyone who suffers with an ED.
That's your logic, not ours.
And I would have to title my videos, "Everyone who suffers with an ED should be banned from YouTube," or something like that. But I didn't do that, and I don't think that, and I never have thought that. What my belief is, and what my belief always has been, is that people who weaponize their EDs in the form of thinspo or pro-ana content, who use it for shock value and for profit with zero regard for who they're influencing, should be removed or age restricted.
Well, that's not what Eugenia Cooney's doing, so she shouldn't be banned.
When you're a creator and you have a large audience, you're called an influencer. And influencers influence people. It's why they're called influencers. And according to YouTube's community guidelines, there's a certain amount of responsibility that comes with that influence. If you look at YouTube's community guidelines, you'll see that they actually agree with me. If you look at their community guidelines page, you'll see that there's a bunch of different ones, but if you scroll down, you'll see one that says harmful and dangerous content. And if you read through it, it says eating disorders. Content that praises, glorifies, or encourages viewers to imitate anorexia or other eating disorders. Eating disorders are characterized by abnormal or disturbed eating habits, which negatively affect a person's health. And YouTube agrees with me.
Your only proof of Eugenia Cooney supporting an eating disorder is basically her existence. That's basically your proof that Eugenia Cooney is allegedly supporting or praising an eating disorder.
And I know this because they took down one of my videos on Eugenia Cooney. So on May 16th, I got a notification that one of my videos had been taken down. And it wasn't like a super crazy video. It was literally just me sitting in a chair, like I always do, just responding to things that Eugenia was doing in her video. Like, it was just a video that Eugenia had done. It was like a fashion haul or something, and I was talking about it. Hi, Pastel Belle. Our team has reviewed your content, and unfortunately, we think it violates our harmful and dangerous policy. We've removed the following content from YouTube, and the video was The Dangers of Eugenia Cooney and Pro-Ana Content. Now, I really want to stress that this was not a video that was taken down because it was bullying Eugenia Cooney. Remember that community guideline that I went over like 10 seconds ago? That was what they cited. It wasn't bullying or something else, because that's a completely different guideline. The only thing that would make sense for it to be taken down for is if it violated their eating disorder policy, which is under the harmful and dangerous content section. So why did my video on Eugenia get taken down, but Eugenia's own videos get to stay up? Now, keep in mind, the only thing that was in my video was me sitting in a chair doing some analysis on why body checking and thin spout is bad, but Eugenia's video, which had the same content except without the disclaimers and without the educational stuff about EDs and the dangers of it, that got to stay up. The only thing that I can possibly think of is that I just don't generate the same amount of ad revenue that Eugenia does.
YouTube is a billion-dollar company. They don't give a fuck about any of their creators, regardless of who they are. I mean, have you heard of Leafy is Here? Leafy is Here has been making millions of dollars of the YouTube platform. He's making YouTube a ton of money. But guess what? YouTube banned him like last summer.
Eugenia is making YouTube a ton of money, and I'm just not doing that. In other words, it all boils down to money. Now, before people who are hell-bent on trying to bring me down start going on about how it was actually me violating the bullying or harassment policy, just know that the email didn't cite the bullying or harassing policy as the reason they took my video down. Remember, the reason they took my video down was for violating the harmful or dangerous policy, under which there's a clause about eating disorder promotion. So they saw that the issue with my video was not me harassing or bullying Eugenia. The reason they had a problem with my video was because I was allegedly promoting eating disorders. And after I talked to them about the hypocrisy with that and how I was very obviously not doing that, they reinstated my video.
Okay, so I got her to say the whole thing. Her video got taken down for violating a community guideline, and then it got reinstated. Here's the thing. YouTube's community guideline system is broken. It's ass. It's horrible. Does she explain that? No. She does not explain that. She only explains because it doesn't doesn't say that. So here's my YouTube screen right now. You see I have a community guidelines warning, and I'm pretty angry about it because I made a video about J-Station where violating the COVID guideline, where I accidentally showed a clip of J-Station saying COVID-19 is FAKE and that the vaccine KILS is U. So YouTube's system is awful. Does she explain that? No. And plus, her video got reinstated, so it was a mistake on YouTube's end.
Now, to address some specific points that he made, starting with the Tess Holiday tweet. I can understand how this can be perceived as not my best tweet, and if I'm being 100% honest about it, it's not my favorite tweet either. As a content creator, I live about half of my life online, and like any other human, I am sometimes going to say things that I'm happy about, and sometimes things that I'm not so happy about. Do you honestly think, though, that if we go through this creator's entire tweet history, we're not going to find a single thing that he no longer stands by? The difference is, I'm not going to sit here and find a single tweet and then nitpick it over and over and over to death.
But that's exactly what you did when you made the underwear video.
If it's not in line with that person's intent. And I think I've been pretty clear about what my intent is this entire time. To address the point he made about me saying that I never wanted her deplatformed, I have always had the same stance on Eugenia. I have always said that I think her content should be either age restricted or removed because I think it is causing a lot of harm to people. And as someone who suffered with an ED myself, I know exactly how dangerous and insidious this disease is and how harmful Thinspo and pro-Ana content is to those who struggle with EDs or who are prone to struggle with EDs. I have always said that. When I mentioned I never said that I wanted to deplatform her, I meant that I don't think she should be deplatformed from every social media that she has ever or will ever have forever. Like, arguing this point is literally just hyperbole, but also I've always had the same stance and I've always said it publicly. I think that Eugenia's pro-Ana, Thinspo, shock value content that is actively harming minors in her community should be temporarily banned or age restricted on YouTube. Not only because it's harming minors and it's harming adults, but it also literally just does violate YouTube's own community guideline.
Again, her only proof of Eugenia Cooney promoting pro-Ana is apparently her existence.
Now to address the Nicocado Avocado situation. You know, I knew even before I posted that video that people were going to intentionally misrepresent what I said, which is why I included this. Again, I think it's extremely important to acknowledge that Nicocado Avocado and people like him, such as like Amberlynn Reed and other people who do these like binge eating content videos online. I don't think that should be normalized. I don't think it's healthy. I don't like to see it. I want to see people being healthy and having a good relationship with their body and with food. But I also think that there is already a lot of information out there about why that behavior is not good. And I think a lot of people sort of downplay the effects that eating have on people. And I don't think that that is a responsible or okay thing to do, especially considering some of these immediate dangers to your life that eating can put you in. It's also really disgusting to me that so many people willfully misrepresent what I said and also refuse to listen to the voices of people who said that they were literally directly influeed by Eugenia to look more like Eugenia.
Well, that's their fault. It's not Eugenia's fault. Eugenia is not a babysitter that goes around and just she's not a babysitter. She's just a YouTuber on the internet and just tells and just likes to do what she does. She does gaming videos, makeup videos, whatever the fuck. She's not a babysitter. She's a content creator, not a babysitter.
These are the exact demographics of people that I and many other creators have tried to protect. But no one chose to listen to them. They just decided to marginalize their voices and also ignore them in favor of the idea that, oh, Belle said it's okay to look like Nicocado Avocado. Which, no, I didn't say that. I'm just saying that considering how the media portrays people who look like Eugenia versus people who look like Nicocado, I think that there is a very obvious difference in the influence that Eugenia's content is going to have over people. And I think this is largely because of how the media represents people who look like Eugenia. And I don't understand why that's so complex for people to wrap their brains around. Obviously, there are still a lot of problems with Nicocado, and I don't think he's healthy or it's okay to look like that. But I also think that everyone knows that. And I don't really see as many people as influenced by Nicocado as Eugenia. And so when I say Eugenia is more dangerous, that's what I mean. Only that she is more dangerous, but they are both still dangerous.
I don't think Eugenia is dangerous at all. She just wants to make videos and be happy all along. She just wants to be happy. Nicocado, on the other hand, he eats a fuck ton of food. And I think he even made a whole video about his disability or how he's getting sick or whatever. He even made a video about I think he had beef with Moist Critical about how, I don't really know the whole beef, but people are saying he's killing himself for views. And I feel like Nicocado is a little bit more dangerous than Eugenia. Actually, more dangerous than Eugenia.
I never said that Nicocado's content isn't dangerous at all. I just said that Eugenia's thinspo is a lot more dangerous because of how the media portrays people who are thin as being much more attractive. And it's pretty obvious if you go back and watch my entire video, not the out of context clips taken as the gospel truth, but actually watch my entire video, then you'll see the point I was actually trying to make. This creator also tried to use the point that one time another YouTuber stayed with Eugenia for a couple days 5 or 6 years ago, as if this is proof positive that there cannot be any abuse going on in that house. It is so obvious that when someone has someone staying with them, they're going to put their best foot forward and they're not going to show any obvious signs of abuse. That does not prove that there is no abuse going on in that situation. It just means that for a couple days, they have to act like normal people. This isn't really even worth going into. This is so ridiculous, it's barely even a point.
There's also no proof that Eugenia's parents is abusive.
Now, about the panties matching the eyeshadow comment that I made in one video one time that they keep bringing up over and over and over again, as if it was the only point that I made in that video.
Because that was such a nitpick.
If you don't think that that's valid, if you don't think that that is evidence of Eugenia doing it on purpose, that's completely fine. You don't have to agree with me. But what I do find weird is I brought up a lot of other points in that video and they really only harp on that one individual thing. And if it was that one thing, I wouldn't really think it was necessarily on purpose. But because of everything else that happened, that led me to believe that it was definitely on purpose. And I also want to note, there were 15 panty flashes in the video. It wasn't a live stream, it was edited. I personally don't think that it's going to get uploaded without her mother's approval and that she probably saw it and knew about it, but okay, sure. It definitely was edited by someone, either Eugenia or someone else. And so you're telling me that this editor, who edits a YouTuber with 2 million subscribers videos, you're telling me that this editor left 15 shots of panties in the video without noticing?
Well, who the fuck looks at her panties when who the fuck looks at her panties when he watches Eugenia Cooney videos? That's also another point that I want to bring up. Who looks at her fucking underwear? Probably weirdos on the fucking internet.
That Eugenia just somehow was completely oblivious to that fact? Now, you might believe that, and that's completely fine, but I am never going to be convinced that that was simply left in by accident. When the shock value of her videos go up, her views also go up. And Eugenia's been doing constant body checking and thinspo content for years, with zero regard for who it hurts, regardless of how many times it's been brought to her attention. When she does something shocking or controversial, her views skyrocket exponentially. And you can verify that by just checking out her YouTube channel for 11 seconds. Now, I don't even necessarily have a problem with people who post shocking content so long as it's not done at the expense of the safety of their audience who watches them. And in addition to this being already against YouTube's terms of service, I also want to stress that this is, more importantly, extremely dangerous to the minors and adults who are watching her. Now, many of you are probably unaware of this, but there's actually a huge anorexia fetish community online. And while I don't have 100% proof that Eugenia is catering to this community, there is a lot of evidence from people who are very familiar with this, who know so much more about it than I do, that Eugenia might possibly be catering toward the community with certain requests that she takes in videos. I also want to note that there is 100% proof that there are people who are anorexia fetishists who are in Eugenia's own community. And for more information on that, you can check out the Eugenia Cooney subreddit, although you will have to scroll back a little bit. I'm not going to go any deeper into the anorexia fetish aspect of this video, but if you want to see another video that was really well done, that really thoroughly went into it and kind of explained what it was, then I will link a video in the description below done by Of Herbs and Altars, which was absolutely amazing and really covered this very thoroughly. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about is probably the most upsetting to me, and that is the fact that I have not only seen people try to trivialize the dangers of thinspo content that Eugenia produces, but I've also seen people try to marginalize the voices of survivors who have come out of her community. You see, there have been a lot of problems in Eugenia's Discord or in her community in general where there's a lot of predators there. There's a lot of predators that are looking for kids who are not mentally well, who are in some way, shape, or form vulnerable to predation. And Eugenia's had some interesting responses to this. So I am so sick of people acting like Eugenia is this helpless person who no one's allowed to criticize. And I'm not just gonna sit idly by and allow people to paint this narrative like the victims who are coming forward are the ones at fault and Eugenia has no responsibility, despite the fact that she is a 27-year-old woman who has a platform of over 2 million subscribers. You can say whatever you want about me, but I'm not going to allow people to marginalize the voices of these children who are brave enough to come forward. Actively allow children to be hurt. That is something that should be called out, and that would not be tolerated if it was any other YouTuber. So why does Eugenia get a pass? Why am I not allowed to criticize that? Eugenia is not just another creator online who has an ED. She weaponizes her ED in the form of thinspo to generate clicks and views on her channel.
This whole weaponizing and eating sort of thing is so stupid. All it is because she simply exists. Like, this is all dumb. Like, the only reason why you say this is because of her existence and possibly weird things that she does in her room. That's not proof at all. You're just nitpicking at that point.
Regardless of how many times people have informed her that this is actively hurting her community and actively making life worse for people who are trying to recover from their ED, she continues to do it. I also feel like a lot of people are trying to ignore the fact that Eugenia is, you know, an influencer who influences people. I feel like a lot of people are like, oh yeah, well, it's not Eugenia's fault that she struggles with an ED and she can't be held accountable for the fact that she has this mental illness which is outside of her control, which is true. She has no control over that and it's not her fault that she has to struggle with this. But I don't see the same charitability towards other people, you know, minors who struggle with an ED, who kind of have no choice to look at it because there are so many times where people have said, YouTube, do not show me this. I don't want to see this. And they block her content and YouTube still promotes it. And then it's on the trending page. So how are people supposed to not see this content when it's everywhere?
Well, there's an easy solution to that. You can either like press the do not recommend me this or do not show this or not interested. And if YouTube still promotes it, there's like a feature where you can report a problem and maybe YouTube might respond to you to that.
And it's not as if she has the decency to stay in the pro ED community. She also is merging into like the anime and cosplay community. So if you don't want to see the ED stuff, but you still are into like, I don't know, some of the most popular interests online, you're going to have it shoved down your throat every time you open up YouTube. Now, obviously, there are a lot of issues with Eugenia's platform. There's the Thinspo Pro Anna stuff, which I've been talking about pretty much the entire time. There's also the number of minors that have been groomed through her community, you know, because predators see the kind of people that Eugenia attracts, and they know that they can be more easily groomed than the average not mentally ill child. But there's also like so many other issues. And I'm not really going to go super deep into every single problem with Eugenia's content because I feel like this video would be even longer than it already is. But the most frustrating thing is that YouTube agrees with me. YouTube sees a problem with her content.
Well, if YouTube does agree with you, then wouldn't they take her down immediately?
And the reason I know that, again, is because my video that featured Eugenia's content was removed. It was removed because it violated the harmful and dangerous policy, but Eugenia's own video got to stay up. Now, I want to remind you guys that the video that I had that got removed, it only featured content that I got from Eugenia's channel. And so the video that I made with a bunch of disclaimers about the dangers of like pro-Ana stuff, that was taken down for promoting eating disorders. But Eugenia's video that I literally took it from was fine to stay up.
I'm gonna explain into thinking, this is what I think YouTube took it down for. Well, I think YouTube took it down because you were mentioning like an eating disorder. I think you had pro-Ana in the title of the video. I feel like that's why YouTube took it down. I think that's the reason. I mean, at least you got it reinstated, so I'm happy for you for that.
There is literally no logical explanation for that, aside from, I don't know, maybe we could take a look at our analytics and see how much money my channel is generating for YouTube versus Eugenia's. And I feel like if we did that, the answer would become crystal clear. Now, I was pretty suddenly and ridiculously attacked by people for a stance that I've had online publicly for going on a year now on something that I hadn't spoken about for months, on something that I planned on never speaking about again, and that I publicly said I wasn't planning on speaking about again. So I'm kind of left just very confused at this point. Obviously, every creator has a complete right to disagree with my stance on anything. You can disagree with me all you want. No one has to agree on everything. But this video wasn't just about disagreeing and voicing a different opinion or a different perspective. This was literally a hit piece. This was filled with the worst possible interpretations of what I said, things taken out of context, and it was an attempt to smear my reputation and my name and make it seem like I'm this awful, soulless person who's just doing this for clout or to antagonize a mentally ill woman for no reason. And so I wanted to come on here and just clear the air and just once again reaffirm what my stance is on all of this. Anyone can take a bunch of out of context clips and compile them together and spin this, fabricated narrative and try to make it seem like someone's a horrible person. It's very easy to do. However, I do find it really frustrating because I have been very honest about what my stance is regarding this situation the entire time. And I also have only talked about this because this is something that I am extremely passionate about. And even though this is something that really does trigger my own ED and makes my mental health get so much worse, this is still something that I chose to cover only because I wanted to make a difference and I wanted to educate people about the dangers of thinspo, because I wish that was content that I had seen when I was first getting into it. And so this whole narrative, like I'm just this selfish, soulless person, just this tea channel out to start drama and get clout or out to get attention, is so frustrating because the only things I have ever talked about on my channel are things that I genuinely do care about. So if you want to follow this content creator, that's fine. If you want to believe that any woman or LGBT person who comes forward and talks about serious issues is just a tea channel looking for drama, that's fine. If you want to believe that Eugenia is this innocent angel who has never done anything wrong, or hop on the every content creator needs to be held responsible for their actions except for Eugenia train, that's also fine. If you want to marginalize what minors have gone through on her platform with her constant dismissal of grooming victims, that's fine. If you want to pretend that thinspo and pro-Ana content don't exist, that's fine.
Okay, you are nitpicking at this point.
I'll still believe what I have always believed and what I have believed since day one. And that is something that YouTube actually agrees with me with, based on their own community guidelines. And that's the fact that if content is actively hurting minors, it should be removed or at the bare minimum, age restricted until it is changed. I've said this publicly a million times in the past, and I'll say it again. I want to see Eugenia get better. I actually don't enjoy seeing Eugenia sick like this. It's not really fun for me. And I, like any person with a sense of decency, want to see her make a full recovery. I'm rooting for her.
I think we all want to see Eugenia Cooney succeed and do well and hopefully get better. We all want to do that. Yeah, that's one thing I'm gonna agree with her on. I hope Eugenia gets better, and I hope she can possibly get help at her own time.
But at the same time, I'm not going to allow Eugenia to just get away with actively harming minors with her constant body checking and her thinspo content. I know that this is having a real negative impact on so many people, not only in her community, but just on YouTube in general.
Then blame the people who are consuming her content, not the people that are, like, not Eugenia Cooney, who's like making videos. Eugenia Cooney, once again, Eugenia Cooney is a content creator, not a babysitter.
So I'm not going to just ride this wave of ignorance and pretend like Eugenia isn't doing tangible harm to the world. I also just want YouTube to hold Eugenia to the same standards they would hold any other content creator to. Because I know for a fact, if I did half of what Eugenia does, my platform would not only be taken away, but I would be canceled by everyone online. And so that's all I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to get accountability because obviously she is violating YouTube's own community guidelines. And we know this. I think I've proven that time and time again. And so that's all I want. I just want the community to be a safe place for minors, and I also just want people to be held accountable if they're violating TOS. I also do genuinely hope that if she does get temporarily removed from YouTube for violating TOS, that she's able to get the help that she needs, that she deserves, so that she can thrive as a person. Because no one deserves to be suffering with an ED. And even though I am very critical of her, this is not a hate video. I don't hate Eugenia. This is not me trying to cancel her, and even though I know she is pretty much incapable of responding to constructive criticism, and she's just going to write me off as another hater, I don't hate Eugenia, and I do want to see her get better, and I want to see her, be a happy person. I'm also going to use this video as an opportunity to just say that I am going to be leaving commentary. Yes, that's right, females can do commentary too. It's not just tea just because I'm a female. I've been thinking about this for a long time. It's actually probably been about a year that I've been thinking about this. But this situation has really just cemented in my mind that I cannot do this any longer. So this is my final video addressing the situation.
Good riddance, Belle.
I don't care how many other videos people take out of context, and I don't care how many videos people create trying to spin my narrative and trying to make it seem like I'm this horrible person. I'm done. I don't want to talk about it anymore. So I've also decided that I'm going to get out of commentary. I'm going to switch over to doing more media analysis and LeftTube content, as I really like what's happening over in that sphere right now. I've been watching a lot of Ethan and Hassan, and also Christina Mayoni, ContraPoints.
Alright, well, you hear that, everybody. It looks like Eugenia Cooney is done with commentary, and now she's moving on to politics, I guess. This kind of sucks. I mean, if you can't even handle criticism from drama channels, what makes you think you can do politics correctly? And I kind of want to end off this video by saying thanks for watching my response video. Thank you for, at least going through this 30 minutes. I know it's been hard because, well, you don't want to hear me for 30 minutes or Pastel Belle for 30 minutes. Anyways, that's all I have for today's video. Hope you guys like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.